So this was reported by Iran International, and it's really revealing. So I wanted the rest of you to know about this as well. So I'll just read it really quickly, right? So disputes within Iran leadership blocked negotiators' trip to Islamabad. And guys, let me know what you think about this because this is really revealing, right? Divisions within Iran's leadership prevented a negotiating team from traveling to Islamabad for talks within the US. Iran International learned. We already knew this part. We already guessed it before it happened, and we already knew this part is not new, but the details are very revealing, right? Tensions between allies of President Masoud Pezeshkian and figures close to Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei's office, right, derailed the trip at the last minute. So this is very key. Mojtaba Khamenei's office. So because we don't know if Mojtaba Khamenei himself is in charge of anything, but because he's still the supreme leader, his office can speak on his behalf, and therefore it's the office that is the supreme leader more than Mojtaba himself and all the people who are around him or around his body or whatever. So according to the sources familiar with the matter, the delegation was ready to leave when a message from Khamenei's inner circle ruled out discussing nuclear issues and reprimanded the foreign ministry team over earlier negotiations. So, our understanding is that Arakchi and his team were told that you screwed up by even talking about, even negotiating about the nuclear stuff. Guys, this level of inflexibility means that there is no way that negotiations could go anywhere. Now, especially that his official, that Mujtaba doesn't want to talk about nuclear stuff, that means there is no way that we could get a deal that is acceptable to President Trump. This ends everything. This ends the negotiation possibility unless there is a more transparent coup against Mujtaba within the Islamic Republic, right? And I don't think it's not just me who thinks that. You know who else thinks that? Arakchi. Look at this. Foreign Minister Abbas Arakchi warned that under such constraints, attending talks would serve no purpose and would effectively doom any chance of progress. So first of all, he's right. But second of all, that is very daring for him to say that. So he was like, they told him to go to Islamabad with these conditions, and his response was not like, "Sir, yes, sir, dear supreme leader." His response was, "Well, what's the point?" Right? So shows some level of defiance against Mujtaba, which also demonstrates that Mujtaba is not as supreme as his father, right? At least not in their eyes. And then says the reports come after earlier indications that a U.S. delegation led by Vice President J.D. Vance could travel to Islamabad for talks, while President Donald Trump has since extended the ceasefire to allow time for a potential Iranian proposal. Well, with these conditions set by Mujtaba now, or people who are pretending to be Mujtaba or his inner circle. With these conditions, there will not be any potential proposal that President Trump would be able to accept. So this is this is an update, and I just wanted to see if you guys have any opinions about this. Did anybody put any twos?
Yes, so I have a two from Hila first.
And there is a lot of rumors about Mujtaba lately, like today, yesterday. I don't know. I think Mujtaba, in the best case scenario, is after he third face cosmetic surgery because he cannot be in public because of his damaged face. He had he switched his leg 3 times. He's waiting for a new leg. The one guy is a heart surgeon from the regime. Is in there with him. I mean, he's crumbling down. I don't know if between all the seizures and falling asleep for surgery, you can have clear thoughts. That's the best case scenario. So I think all of it is rumors. And like, if you spread rumors, you can be in.
So here's the thing: it's not rumors that the circle around Mujtaba has said that, right? Which is effectively working as if it is Mujtaba. the part that is rumor is, where's Mujtaba? Is he alive? Is he dead? Is he healthy? Is he conscious? Even if he's alive, that part is rumor. But the part that has been verified is that the people who are speaking on behalf of Mujtaba, they have put that out there. The people who are his inner circle, the office of the Beit Rapari, the office of the supreme leadership, right? So that
Yeah.
is verified. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think he's between surgeries right now. He's kind of busy, so.
But he's
But
not
I mean,
relevant. But
yeah, obviously, it was
Mujtaba
never
himself
relevant.
is not relevant. The people who speak on behalf of him are the relevant
Yeah,
people.
I get it. I think,
Yeah.
okay, there is two approach, one American approach, one Israeli approach to this.
Mm.
Americans are like, oh, we have a lot of time is at our side, they should fight between them, we'll just make scenarios that make them fight between them until they kill each other. Israel, on the other hand, we never have time. Okay, we want to kill all of these 20, 10 people, whoever these people are. It's a short list. I mean, how much left? So I think it's like between Israel and America right now, because this is what they do to us with Hamas. We just we left the small. Yeah, no, you need to.
So so let me tell
No.
you, guys, about this division that exists within anti-regime Iranians right now. So there are two types of anti-regime Iranians, and there's a disagreement there right now, and the disagreement is increasing. There are anti-regime Iranians who love Netanyahu, Israel, and United States, and there's other anti-regime Iranians who are saying Israel gets it, United States doesn't. Okay, and there is an infighting right now, and the anti-regime pro-Israelis who are now turning against President Trump. They're saying that Israel was on the right path and they were killing regime leaders and they were moving step by step, and President Trump came out in the middle and changed the plan. That is their narrative. They're saying that everything was moving in the right direction and President Trump stopped Israelis once again when things were getting good, right? That's what they're saying. So the pro Trump Iranians who are saying no, President Trump and Netanyahu are completely aligned. They're playing good cop, bad cop. And President Trump is using negotiations as a way to cause internal divisions within the Islamic Republic. But the ones who are saying Israel gets that, President Trump doesn't get it, are saying that the strategy for Israel was to keep killing regime officials until there's none of them left. Like they were so scared, they were panicking, they were pissing their pants, and now with all of this ceasefire, they now got their narrative and their propaganda back together, and Israel was moving to the phase of taking out checkpoints until the Iranian people could do an uprising. But President Trump came out with the idea that, oh, let's now try negotiating instead of letting Israel just finish the job. Right. But then the pro Trump Iranians are saying, no, this is actually working very well. Israel is the bad cop. President Trump is pretending to be the good cop. And they're basically they know exactly what they're doing and they're completely aligned. So I just wanted to let you know that the this exists. This disagreement exists with among Iranians. But
I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I don't understand this random separation of scenarios. I feel like I'm somewhere.
in the middle,
Yeah, I mean, I think all kinds of stuff can be true in the same time, like, so I think, yeah, probably Israel wants to make it faster, America has more time. I think the negotiation is a part of the game, not a setback in the game. I mean, I don't know, but
mm,
yeah.
yeah. But I know that the Iranian people can't afford to be ungrateful to President Trump right now. Okay,
Mhm.
whichever one of these is true, we need to be support, like both the Israelis and the Americans are responsible for us seeing so many of our oppressors dead, and we can't afford to be pro-Israeli and anti-American. We need to be supporting both. That's what I think.
Yep. Okay, next to respond is Shana.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just think part of it too is I don't know how much Trump does have time in some ways, but we are also dealing with the midterms in the United States. And I know Hilla is like, why does that matter? So from my perspective, okay. From my perspective, I think that we should just like let the Israelis go free and kill all the motherfuckers. That's where I'm at. However, there's also the fact that Trump, as a strategist and as a political pundit, there's a lot of stuff going on in the United States internally, and if he's seen as caring too much about foreign policies, that's going to be a problem. It's already pissing off a lot of Americans that Israel is so much a focus because only about 4% of Americans vote on international politics. So there needs to, so part of what I think the blockade is doing and part of why I think the ceasefire is happening is to kind of distract the public a little bit so that he can be seen as refocusing back on domestic policies and not be seen as like being too caught up in foreign policies. Because that is a critique that people are saying on both Democrats and Republicans, left, right. There's frustration about that. There's certain policies that need to get pushed through. There's certain debates internally with the Republicans going on that I won't bore everybody with. But just as a point that there is, it's a midterm year, and Republicans, like, he will not be able to do shit if he can't get the House and the House and the Senate. Like, he needs to have a majority at least for one of those places. So kind of the ceasefire might just be a way to distract something, strategically. Even though I would prefer we just not talk about the fact that the Israelis are silently taking out the bad guys, but I don't know if that's a possibility.
So, this makes me think of, like, maybe the difference is not between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump. Maybe the difference is between the Israeli population and the American population, because the Israeli population is pretty united in the necessity of this military operation, and the Americans are not. So it's basically President Trump has to deal with that. So he cannot afford to be aggressive as Prime Minister Netanyahu because he doesn't have as much support internally for these military operations. So there's that.
Yeah, next.
Hey, so I think it's interesting because I don't know how compartmentalized the Beit Arafari is, but I think we can assume that Arakshi knows the status of Mushtaba, right? So if he's speaking to, or speaking against Mushtaba, he's really speaking against people that he knows are not able to talk to Mushtaba. So it's kind of like your dad saying that he's going to go ask Santa Claus, but really he's just going to go ask your mom. And so on our side, we can use that to harm them by basically just confirming what we know, which is that Mushtaba is in a coma. He may be alive, but he doesn't exist. And anyone who's speaking for him is just lying. And Arakshi knows that, but he has to go along with the Santa Claus myth. So we can hurt them just by confirming that he is in a coma. And that could happen, on Iran International or on any news source that could possibly filter into the consciousness of the regime supporters.
She probably wouldn't have access to the highest level of information, but so he wouldn't be given that information regarding where's Mushtaba and how he is, because he's just a reformer, so he's usually is kept out of the state secrets and stuff like that. But I think he could just put two and two together and think, like, just like the rest of us, like, if he's okay, why wouldn't you even put an audio message of them? But the regime is saying that the reason why Mushtaba is not coming out is because this is a trap. Like, everybody, like, oh, where's Mushtaba? Where's Mushtaba? So that he comes out and then they take him out. And the response is, okay, if he doesn't come out, why not just put a video message of him out like Nasrallah did when he was in his hiding? Or if that is not safe, why not even an audio message? Like the only way that this makes sense that comes to my mind is that maybe he's okay, and they want everybody to just come up with the narrative saying that, oh, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead. So we're like, see, everybody was wrong, and basically try to embarrass everybody. That might be the only 5D chess move that I could think of. But other than that, I can't think of any other reason other than he might be in a coma or dead or something. But yeah.
Do you think maybe he's like the Mahdi going into the third occlusion?
You know what? I was thinking that they have already an audience trained to follow somebody that is in hiding. So this is going to work very well for them. They're going to be like, Ali Khamenei was like Imam Ali, and this guy is like the Mahdi. In fact, here's actually what I would do. I would say, look how wise Allah is. He's training you for the coming of Mahdi. Because everybody, you guys are saying, where's Mahdi? Why we want Mahdi to come? We want Mahdi to come, and he's not coming. But God wants to see, are you really ready? And he did two things, because the Mahdi, when he comes, is going to be young, and many people don't take a young person seriously as a religious leader. So he did two things. He God, in his ultimate wisdom, allowed Ali Khamenei to die so that your new supreme leader is a young person, to see if you would follow a young personality like Mahdi to test you. And also, he's keeping him in hiding to see if you will follow somebody even if they're in hiding. And this is a test from God to see if you're a true followers of Mahdi by creating a situation that is very much like Mahdi. And this is the ultimate wisdom of God, that he created this test for you to see if if this is the time for the Mahdi's arrival. And if you pass this test, then the Mahdi's arrival is just around the corner. There you go. Free of charge. Hardliners. Steal my narrative. Yeah, okay. But
can I just say, I think the reason we know that Arakshi knows that he's not speaking back to Mujtaba is because he wouldn't dare do it if he thought there was a possibility that he was actually speaking against him. Is that a fair argument?
well, I mean, he might be seeing that the people in charge, like, okay, so he might be taking orders from people who are telling them to ignore the messages from the so-called supreme leader circle. So he can tell that, okay, there's a new sheriff, and like, this is like the bait of the rappery, the office of the supreme leadership is not in charge. These are my bosses, right? So that might be the reason why he's more confident, because we have gone through a coup right now in Iran, a coup that many of us saw coming for many years, which is the boots replacing the turbans. We already knew that this is going to happen many years, like at least 5 years ago, because we see this coming. And now the boots are replacing the turbans, and we're moving from a theocracy to a military dictatorship. So Arakchi just has new bosses.
Can I
That
ask
might,
you one other
yeah,
question
of course,
about,
yeah.
do we know who speaks on behalf of, like, if it's the kind of the emperor new clothes or whatever, or has no clothes, who is sort of able to speak to say like, oh, I went into his hospital room and this is what he said? Like, who has that ability to speak on
Right,
behalf of Mujtaba? Is it just the religious leadership, or is it the boots? Like,
right. So that's a very interesting question, because we saw the IRIB, like the state TV, making announcements on behalf of Mujtaba, right? So the question is, who's telling state TV to make that claim, right? And we assume that it must be depending on the message. So when the message is, oh, trust Ghalibaf, Ghalibaf is doing everything great, he has my endorsement. But now when the message is coming out and they're saying that Mushtaba is saying no talks about nuclear, Now maybe it's the other parts of IRGC, like people like Vahidi, that are putting that message out, right? It's really hard to tell who's putting words in Mushtaba's mouth, but we could only judge based on what that message is. But that the unsatisfying answer is that nobody knows right now.
Right?
Does that make sense? Yeah, okay.
Let's move on. Guys, next to respond.
Okay.
So I wanted to touch on what he last said earlier with regards and the whole discussion about the differences between Israel and America, as far as like how to do things. First of all, I think it's important to remind people that by all accounts, as far as we know, Trump was going to attack quickly after January 8th. And then Bibi was the one who told him, wait, if you want to do this, do it right. Don't rush into it, but rather collect your forces. And so that goes like in the opposite way of the narrative we just talked about with regards to Israel wants to go in, and America's like, okay, let's do tactical pauses and let's collect our forces and
It doesn't necessarily, because the understanding there is that President Trump, like from these people, is that President Trump wanted to do something that was just symbolic, that wouldn't cause regime change, and that Israel wanted to do something bigger that does cause regime change. So it still goes in line with that narrative.
Okay, but so to me, we're talking about that in comparison to the ceasefire right now. I think that if we want the ceasefire right now, actually the sorry, not the regime change right now, the ceasefire is necessary. Because, to my mind, assuming you have some decent-sized mass of people who switched sides after January 8th, so that you have some weapons that are already available, and all the data points that we saw that suggest that the IRGC is really lacking in manpower that is willing to fight the Iranian people. The biggest thing separating the Iranian people from control over Iran right now are the proxies. And if Trump was going to go through with essentially doing the last big attack 2 weeks ago, then you still have the problem that you're accelerating the end of when the Iranian people would essentially not have much of a choice to when the proxies are still there. But now, with the ceasefire, he's choking out the regime's funds, hastening the point at which the proxies go back to their countries, at which point you can actually start doing the revolution proper. And to me, like, if I have to choose between the American, assuming this is the American approach, which we don't know, they might want a deal. To me, especially the video we posted a couple of days ago that with the Iranian protesters, to me sealed it that no, he does want the regime change, and he's going about it in a way probably that the Israelis wouldn't have. Now, in trying to choose between them, I'm reminded of the end of the Gaza war. So we accepted Trump's plan. Hamas essentially didn't accept Trump's plan. They said, yeah, we were willing to discuss maybe giving the weapons or something along those lines. Some wishy-washy language that was essentially not accepting it. And then Israel immediately came out and said, see, Hamas is not accepting the plan. We're going to go into Gaza. And then Trump came out and said, thank you, Hamas, for accepting the plan. And now we can move on to doing the hostage exchange and so on. And so we got all the hostages back, which would have never happened otherwise. And we're in a situation right now that even though Hamas is still in Gaza, and even though we're antsy, right now the situation is they're expected by everyone to disarm. They don't have hostages to use to prevent attacks. Israel controls half of the Gaza Strip and is therefore able to relatively easily move civilian populations to its own area, so that once we're done with Iran, we will be able, under much better circumstances, to finish off the war in Gaza, bearing in mind that all the conditions for bringing back the hostages before Trump did this diplomatic move involved promising a Security Council-backed 5-year ceasefire that allows Hamas to regroup. So the situation right now is essentially, even though it's not over, it's much better than we could have ever hoped for. And that was due to Trump's unique method of diplomacy. So with all that in mind, I subscribe to Goldie's approach of teros terump.
I hope you're right. And that's what I've been saying in my short videos regarding, I've been focusing on this more than the other narrative. And I think given that we can never be sure what's happening, I think it makes sense for us to both hope that this is what's happening, and also to encourage it as Iranians, because taking an anti-Trump narrative will hurt us, and this is going to play right into the Islamic Republic's hand. So, given that we can't be for sure, I think it makes sense for us Iranians, especially, to go along with this plan as if this is the strategy, and that this is the more effective way. And I think that whether this is the plan or not, based on what we're observing so far, it's working, right? So far, it has caused a level of damage to the Islamic Republic that could not have been achieved through military operations. And based on what we observe from the Islamic Republic, hurting their ideology and humiliation, and making the Islamic Republic followers get disappointed with the Islamic Republic, was necessary for us to, it's a necessary step towards cleansing Iran off of these people, right? Like, if we only do this through military, and we don't humiliate them and make them lose hope, if we don't demotivate these people, if they don't make them feel like they have been betrayed by their leaders, then the cleansing process will not be complete, and these people will lose a regime, but they will still be there to fight. We also need to take away the hope of the regime supporters, so the lives of the regime leaders and the hope of the regime supporters. And I think this ceasefire and this negotiation is doing the second part very well. So again, it's really hard to say if this was all by plan or not, but whatever we get, like, instead of complaining about things that are not happening, noticing the things that are happening in our favor and celebrating those, because we also want to increase hope on our camp, right? So there are many things that are happening that we could celebrate. There are also many things that are not happening that we could keep talking about, like, oh, I wish this was happening. I wish they did this instead. I wish they, right? But highlighting that, it increases disappointment in our camp. So instead, counting our wins and celebrating the division within the Islamic Republic also increases hope and motivation in our camp. So it's not just that we have to take away hope from their camp, we also have to increase hope in our camp. So that's why the messaging that we put out there needs to be taking that into account.
Okay.
Yeah, so just in kind of in response to Guy, when the Iraqi al-Shashabi entered Iran, it was this very public act, right? And we saw this convoy of Toyota trucks that were sort of the ultimate missed opportunity for an A-10 Warthog, right? They made that extremely public, and I'm wondering if those forces are forced to leave. They made it public in order to, I think, instill fear in the Iranian people, to let them know that they still had power on the ground. When they leave, it probably will not be so public, but that exodus will be the ultimate barometer for the strength of the regime. So we should be looking everywhere for information regarding the status of those people.
Right. So yeah, true. But the thing is that the Islamic Republic is doing so many other things to try to show the Iranian people that it's not a good idea to do an uprising. One, like, they at first they use the proxies. Now they're really relying heavily on two things. One, the protests, the pro-regime protests every night in the streets of Iran, that they constantly show that, advertise that. So I don't know when that's going to end, but that is a big deterring strategy that the Islamic Republic has when it comes to uprising. And this also this John Fado website that they have with the internal internet inside Iran. So they don't have, well, I mean, it's called intranet, right? So they don't have internet, but they have this their own internal thing that allows you to go on only local Iranian websites. But they have this website where you could go register as a John Fado, which is a word that they stole from our camp, right? John Fado means that people who sacrifice their lives for the country. And they claim that they have 30 million people registered on this website as people who are willing to sacrifice their lives for the country. And what they mean by sacrifice their lives for the country is to fight Iranian, not Americans and Israelis, but Iranian people, right? Like they're basically fight back against an uprising. Which, if you have 30 million people, then there would be no uprising. If you have 30 million people who are willing to sacrifice their lives for you, then there would never be an uprising. You're like, you are more popular. Anybody who believes that number, the 30 million number, like basically one out of every three Iranian has registered. It's ridiculous that they even suggested that as a number that we should be believing, as if they can't just make that number up, as if they even have a website that could take that much traffic.
I don't believe that the idea of regime change in Iran first occurred to Israel and the US on January 8th. I think long before the protests started in the market, at the very least since after the 12-day war, both countries had a coordinated plan for how to support the Iranians' attempts to overthrow the regime and they rise up. That this plan was always intended to complete or become irreversible by the next American election, and this plan must have been coordinated in private and not just when Bibi publicly visits Trump, also in phone calls. So when Trump says help is on the way and the media comes out with Bibi talked him into a bigger operation, I presume that they were already definitely on the same page. And instead, it's that some element of the plan was not quite ready when expected, or they jointly acted on some new intelligence.
So you don't think that the uprising gave the Americans the calculation that a regime change is more possible than they thought? The uprising of the Iranians.
I think that they expected an uprising sometime in the coming years without necessarily knowing exactly when, and had a plan for what to do with it when it comes.
Okay, but one last thing, guy. But to this scale, nobody saw it happening to this scale. Nobody anticipated that. But okay, go on, Guy.
So I mostly agree with Danny, and like to be more specific, I think the plan was this June. I don't remember where I saw the report, but I think the plan was like they had the 12-day war happened, and then the understanding based on some between the lines reading of what some Israeli officials said, which is like, don't worry, we're not stopping until the regime falls, is that there was a plan that was then implemented by Bessent to hasten the fall of the regime after it was revealed to be weak, and also getting things in place. And I think the plan was meant to foment on June, but it happened earlier. I think June because I heard like reports that there were talks of doing another operation in June this year, and it just happened sooner than expected and bigger than expected, and so they had to push things up, and Mossad wasn't completely ready with everything it had like planned, and so I basically agree with everything Danny said.
Okay, Jeffrey?
Do you agree with our assessment?
Yes, you.
What was the assessment real quick again? Just give me a real quick recap because I was going to say something on it.
The plan was originally to do
I got it. Yeah. So not to cut you off. So yeah, it was, as someone who did one of the bottle and bomb damage assessments after Operation Midnight Hammer, the ugly part of like the good, the bad, the ugly, the good is we disrupted the Mullah regime's traditional approach towards enriching uranium and getting WMDs. The bad was there was all these alternative approaches that the Mullah regime could pursue. Again, the ugly, and not the ugly in the sense that the people are ugly in the sense of tragically what would it cost the Iranian people was to the best chance for both regional stability and or U.S. and global security was to assist the Iranian people to take down the Mullah regime. So it was always there was always a plan to arm Iranian citizens should they have uprised. Your point's pretty much spot on, Danny.
So I wanted to connect some dots. So we know that Ghani left Iraq a few days ago, a couple days ago, which means that whatever he set out to do is done, which was unify the Iraqi militias. So he's probably got to somewhere where he realized, okay, I can leave and everything's good. They're going to join us for the decisive fight. And then the George Bush, the aircraft carrier, is between 2 to 5 days away. So most people are saying it's going to arrive by Saturday. And Israel's defense minister today said that we await further instructions from Washington to destroy Iranian infrastructure and eliminate the Khamenei regime. In addition to that, there's reports saying that Ghalibaf resigned from the negotiating team. And the regime came out and directly refuted that, saying that no, he didn't. Which I love paying attention to what they say did not happen more than they are saying what happened. And then we know that this entire time we've been airlifting a lot of supplies and ammunition. So I would say that based on everything, we're about to start again in the next few days. And when that does happen, I think the people at the very top, like the leaders, are going to go boom, boom, because we see that every single time. We see leaders being taken out every time. So they're going to try and kill Vahidi, they're going to try and kill Ghalibaf, Arachi, like all these people are going to be first on the list because of their utter failure to be able to unify and give a sort of proposition to the US.
I really hope you're right. I hope Israelis don't hold back at all this time. They're like everybody on this layer. What layer are we? Layer 3, 4, 3.5. But
3.5,
everybody
3.5.
on this layer has to go, and maybe even the layers before them. Like, let's not give them any other opportunity.
Also, yesterday I showed that video of us of the speedboats going across the strait, and I was saying that
Yeah.
they might have laid mines. A ton of people, including like U.S. officials, have been saying that they did lay mines. Even Trump is alluding to that from his True Social post that he's going to kill all the speedboats. I've instructed everyone to kill all the speedboats. So what we're going to end up seeing is we're going to see a lot more seizures of the cargo ships or the oil ships, because I think everyone would rather have them just be seized and boarded than to hit those mines. Hitting those mines would be a catastrophic psychological consequence for every ship for the next like year or so. We would just see a halt of that sort of trade. So yeah, we're going to see a lot more seizures, and we're going to see the war pick up again. As you guys just said, Mojtaba just came out and said, supposedly, why'd you even negotiate about the nuclear terms? They're so unwilling to do this. It's going good. We're on the right track still.
So, what do you think about the shadow fleets? Because we're getting so many contradictory reports saying the shadow fleets are going through, not going through, and then going through again. I mean, CENTCOM said that they're not going through, so I guess that should be the end of it. But what do you think?
I am more inclined to believe CENTCOM on this. I know that there are ships that are being allowed in, but I know that they're not being allowed out. Like recently, even there was a ship that contained rice, and they allowed that to go in. But I don't know if any ship is allowed out.
Right. By the way, regarding shadow fleets, I just will have to share this with you guys before I go, because Chris Murphy, U.S. Senator, was celebrating the Islamic Republic being successful. Like that, I mean, then with the news, I mean, maybe the fake news. So look at this. Saying at least 26 Iranian shadow fleet vessels bypass U.S. blockade. And this is Chris Murphy, U.S. Senator, saying, awesome, celebrating a win from an Islamic Republic. Like, I don't know, is he the senator of United States? Like, this is so bizarre that this guy, I mean, this is treasonous, isn't it? This is like celebrating the enemy rather than the army of your own country.
Yeah, that guy got
So
dragged through the media. Also, real quick, if you just Google Senate Iran vote, you'll see that the Senate Republicans, for the fifth time, have failed to vote in order to block Trump's war powers for the fifth time.
Right. Isn't that going to change what's the midterm after the midterms? So Trump has how much time to
He's,
finish all of this?
he has months, right? Aren't the midterms in like 4 months?
I've also read that the president has some power to veto these kinds of resolutions, and then the Senate needs 2/3 of the vote to override the veto, but I didn't look into it too much. Okay, Jeff
Also,
wants to
is
respond?
just really quickly. Also, Brent just had 106. So just wanted to also mention that.
So yeah, the midterms are in November. As far as Christopher Murphy, just to let you know just how big of a piece of shit that guy is, he's one of the main people that played a role in misleading President Zelensky right before President Zelensky met with President Trump, and you had that big breakdown. He's one of like 3 radical left-wing DNC fucking senators who were whispering in President Zelensky's ear, "Don't agree to the fucking mineral deal. He's trying to rob, like Ukraine, all this bullshit that isn't true." So yeah, I mean, he has a fucking history of being an absolute partisan nut job douche canoe. Like, he's a piece of shit. And yeah, every time I think about him, I fucking agita. Right, as far as the shadow fleets, we're going after them everywhere. That was the fucking plan that was sent up the chain, and you're now seeing that happen. We just grabbed ships in the Asian theater. We're hunting them down wherever they are around the world. So grabbing those, you're talking about 300. Again, recognizing His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi and the transitionary government as the official government in exile, liberating those oil tankers and allowing then the exile government to sell it on the free market will provide between 15 and 20 billion dollars. 15 and 20 billion dollars will be able to support so many different lines of effort when it's done. In no matter, like, if it's done, maybe 18 months, regime remnants, no matter where they are around the world or inside Iran, will all be fucking dead, regardless of what happens at the national level.